this week, I was sitting on a call with operators of innovation hubs around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually doing a little schooling
Oh, okay.
to learn how to run accelerators and stuff like that. And they began talking about KRIs. So, of course, I acted like I knew what it was. And then I went to Google and figured it out.
Oh, okay. Welcome to another episode of the Overlap Podcast, where we dive into the intersections of work, fitness, family, faith, parenting, and leadership. Around here, we believe that growth in one area of your life fuels growth in all areas of your life. That's why we're committed to taking the lessons we've learned from business, breaking them down into simple, actionable insights, and empowering small business leaders and, other folks around the world to thrive. And our mission is to help entrepreneurs not just succeed, but create meaningful impact in their businesses, families, and communities. And so that's the Overlap Podcast. And we appreciate you tuning in or downloading or listening today. And here we go. We've got another fantastic episode on a topic that has been talked about in lots of different places, but like I said in the intro, is that we are trying to, take big business ideas and concepts and really, just ground them into a little bit more nuts and bolts, actionable steps that our audience can take action with. So, how's it going, Keith?
Really good.
Really, what's remarkable today, audience? We really need to be on video, and we're going to get to that at some point one day when we get serious about life and everything else. But Keith looks like an accountant today. And one of our good friends commented that he looks like he's got to do real work today.
Yeah, I do. I still have on tennis shoes.
He does have on tennis shoes that are very fancy. It's those tennis shoes that make it look like you're dressing down an outfit, but we all know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I wore a belt today. I never do that, and I never tuck my shirt in, and everybody thinks that just because I do that, I've got something special going on.
You must have something special going on. I'm wearing a T-shirt, guys. Sorry.
And like this safari type jacket, looking like you're about to take a picture.
Well, it was a little chilly, and
it's
I
nice.
just grabbed
I like
a jacket.
It, though. I like it a lot.
Listen, we Keith and I, for whatever reason, are into the same kind of clothes, and it's not a good look for men to be overly concerned about their outfits and whatnot. But the truth is that we shop.
That's right.
And Keith's shirt is probably more expensive than his shoes that he just commented on. What have you been up to?
Oh, man. Getting over turning another day older this week.
Oh, yeah.
And today is your birthday.
It is.
On the day we're recording, you're not going to be listening to this on his birthday, but the day that we're recording is Sid's birthday. Glad. I'm just so glad he's older than I am.
That is not true. But I'm just glad I'm still under 40.
Yeah.
And that is also not true.
God, if you're under 40 looking at you, you've had a hard life.
Look, so fun fact, I've got this is not even a plug for a sponsor or anything, but I've got a Hume what do they call it? Hume scale, full body scale, right? So one of those scales you step on at, your weight, but you're holding on to this other thing, and it does almost like is it DEXA scan or DECA scan? I don't know I can't remember, but it does a whole scan, but it does tell you your metabolic age, and my metabolic age is way under 40.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 32.
Oh, wow.
I know. I'm happy about that.
That's not what Jordan says, but
she doesn't know. She doesn't know.
I did feel old walking over here, though, from the coffee shop we were just at eating breakfast, that you and I got excited when we saw our doctor.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Oh, hey, Dr. K.
That's right.
I think I did ask her about peptides.
You did?
When do we get those in?
Straight up in the street.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's in Fairhope. I mean, everyone's interested in peptides.
Oh, definitely so.
Yeah. If you listen to Andrew Huberman, you got it going on.
I saw her last week, and she wrote down a few peptides I could use.
Yeah. Well, she's into them, and she's a good doctor. The good doctor. What's going on at Hatch?
All kind of stuff. We're moving at the end of this month to our temporary space while we renovate 16,000 square feet.
Oh my!
It's going to be innovation hub in downtown Fairhope.
Nice.
We're getting ready for a big event.
What's
coming
the big
up
event?
March 13th? It's we're calling it the Evening of Biotech Innovation. It sounds really important, and there's going to be way smarter people there than me.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah. Well, doctors and scientists, and I'm really excited about. There's a new cannabis, lab in
Foley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to be there. They're going to be on the panel.
Yeah.
And so, doing that, had a lot of publishing stuff going on. So just real busy.
Okay. Good deal.
Yep.
You doing anything special for your birthday?
I don't know. You and I next week are going to Colorado.
Yeah. It's not next week. It's the week after.
The week after that. Yep.
Yeah.
Monday. I leave not next Monday, but the following.
Yeah. I think I leave on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
It'll be good. Get a few more turns in.
Yeah, this will be my first turn.
Oh, will it?
Mm-hmm,
oh, man.
It will.
Yeah, you have been working.
I've been working.
Golly. Keith, with real work to do. It's amazing, guys.
And maybe that's because I've not been doing what we're going to talk about today well.
How about that for a segue? So what's the topic?
I think this term is a lot of times misconstrued.
Okay.
In business, in life, because this is all we hear. If you're a good manager or a good business owner, you've got to learn to delegate, and you do.
You do.
But I think there's some misconceptions around that we're going to break today. It's going to help tremendously in learning how to accomplish delegation well.
We're at least going to try to help tremendously.
I know I've made a lot of mistakes.
This is why we're going to try. Hey, listen. We're only talking about things that we have messed up and have, paid the hefty price of education in these areas, just so we can turn around and explain it to our audience as if they are us 15 years ago. So please avoid these mistakes.
I would say over the 20 years of me operating a business that this probably is it may be the largest cause of losing money in my business career.
Oh, okay. I don't know if this is the largest cause of me losing money, but it certainly is a large cause of headaches and heartaches and stomach aches and, messed up relationships and other things. So we're talking about delegation, and we're going to talk about how to do it well, in our opinion, and really from the lessons that we've learned. And like Keith said, I do agree that it's a word that's thrown out, and there's probably details and context that are thrown out with it. But what happens many times with business owners, business leaders that probably think like I do or Keith does, which is, give me the broad overview, let me get the concept, and let me move forward with it. And I don't pick up on the details, and usually learn the hard way a couple of times on some of these business, directives. And so let's get started. Delegation. And let's start specifically delegating at work, because there's tons of overlaps here. Do you have a story that perhaps you have delegated something and it's gone incredibly wrong?
Oh, definitely so. And I think the different sectors of business, meaning that you have the same employees all the time, and typically the teams that I work with change because I use contractors and
Sure.
that kind of stuff. So I think the delegation tactics has to change when you work in those different spheres.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of the mistakes that I've made come from me not having been detailed enough.
Gotcha.
And I guess that's probably the same mistake, anyone makes in delegation. But I have to be very, very concise on explaining the task in which I'm delegating, because typically it's to new people.
Yeah.
And where I failed a bunch is not being exact enough in my explanation to what the task is that I'm giving, that I'm delegating.
Okay. And then there's a misalignment in what success looks like in that delegated task.
Yeah, a couple years ago, about a year ago, I made one of the largest financial mistakes in my career.
Is this the book one?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
And, I've mentioned it a couple times, but it was, had I delegated correctly,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have happened.
Okay, give me the broad overview.
When you are putting together a book that is 300 pages plus, you have multiple files of that book.
Okay.
And when you work with primarily contractors, there's multiple people that have that file.
Okay.
And had I collaborated with all the contractors that had worked on the book, or all the team members that have worked on that book, prior to submitting the final copy,
Mm-hmm.
I would have caught the 2 pages that were out of place.
Okay. So there are 2 pages out of place. Was it page 1?
No, it was internal pages. However, it was pages that we had changed prior to the publication.
Mm.
And they did not get inserted into the final copy and file naming structure. So we have a file naming structure inside of our organization, and it didn't get followed, and it was totally my fault.
Well, okay.
Because the final copy came to me, and then I re-uploaded the wrong copy.
Ooh,
yeah,
rough.
And had I been diligent,
yeah,
in reviewing our process, I would have caught it.
So did you delegate something to someone and they missed it? Did you delegate?
I delegated the changes that were to be made and sent the wrong file name.
Oh, and sent the, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so when I delegated those changes to be made, it was made on the wrong file.
Gotcha. Well,
and then numerous things when you come to media around the web, and in the websites that we do and the web structure that we build, it's a lot easier. It doesn't cost you as much when you make those mistakes.
Yeah.
But when
you're
just
printing, go in and fix it. Yeah.
But when you're printing 10,000 of something,
yeah, that costs some money.
It costs some money, right?
Yeah.
And so those are easier things to fix.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot of books, that just got a couple pages wrong. No big deal. Did you use them for like Firestarter or?
That is exactly what the client did.
Oh, good.
Is built a bonfire.
Oh, good. We do that with old plans on a project that we just hated being on for a long time. Let's just take all the plans and have a plan burning.
Hey, let me tell you about a friend of the show called Content Fresh. Since they've taken over our social media for the Overlap podcast, we've seen incredible growth. When you combine the growth from all social platforms, we're looking at a massive increase of 2,235%. This partnership has truly transformed our reach and engagement. If you're passionate about growing your business, partnering with Content Fresh could be a game changer for you. Go to overlaplife.com and click on sponsors today.
If you're a small business owner looking to take your business to the next level, listen up. My good friend Chris Francis has spent over 20 years growing his tree care business to national success. Now he's partnered with Rick Miller, you've probably heard him here on the podcast before, Harvard MBA, and business consultant to create Roadmap for Growth, an online course to help you scale, build teams, and create systems that last. It's not just for the tree industry. This course applies to any small service business. Check out treebusiness.com or hit the link on the Overlap homepage to learn more.
Have you ever had delegation cost you?
Oh man, tons. And most of them are just not being clear with the directions, and being a little bit lazy and loose with how I delegated that and said, a couple of sentences, I want this and I need it by this. Or sometimes I wouldn't give them a deadline and then it would take forever. And, it wasn't really their fault. It was way more my fault. But, there are just multiple cases along that vein of just being unclear with the delegation, and then deadlines or really specific outcomes. What are we going towards? And what I've learned is giving people guardrails. But just kind of getting into our notes, one of the first things that Keith and I were talking about when we were talking about this discussion was in the aspect or the art of delegating at work, the concept should be delegation and elevation. And that's a word that we've gleaned from EOS and Gino Wickman's book of traction. And I think it's a good place to start. And just to give some context to that, it's delegation and elevation should be this, is you should be, if you're thinking about delegating or you're, if you're thinking about delegating and I've got too many things to do and not enough time, I'm getting bogged down with lower level items that perhaps if I'm operating at, let's say the company, my salary and everything is $25 an hour. You can do that pretty easy. Just the average person works about 2,000 hours a year. So 25 times 2,000, doing this math on the fly, is $50,000 a year. Maybe you're worth $50 an hour times 2,000. That's $100,000 a year. You kind of get my point. You start getting an idea of what you're paying yourself. And you really start getting an idea of all the things that you're doing in your day, in your week, in your month, in your year, whatever. And you decide anything below $25 an hour, I'm going to delegate to someone that I'm paying $18 an hour or $20 an hour. If they've got capacity, if you have a team that can do that, if you've got folks that, on your team that have the capacity and you're outsourcing other stuff. Make sense? That's where you should start with, what am I going to delegate? That should give you a real guidepost at that point. And I don't know that people talk about that very much. Like, lots of people will just, let me get rid of the things that I don't like to do, which I don't think that that's a bad idea. I just don't know that that's always the best idea. Because maybe it's a high level thing that you really need to be doing because you ain't got it like that yet. You know what I'm saying?
Well, or you need to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in your organization. And those things I typically try to get out of is the actual management of the thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time. That's really, as an operator and a owner, that's really probably where I need to focus.
Sure.
Is to understand what's going on at the 10,000 foot level versus the day-to-day, tasks that are lesser. I don't want to say lesser.
Or things that you don't like to do.
Right.
That aren't in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I think so this is a good segue to really the second point, which was you can't abdicate your responsibility when we're talking about delegation. And that's just a fancy way for saying you as the owner, as the operator, or as the leader, if you're in an organization and you're leading a department or something like that, you cannot abdicate some of the main core tenets of your role. If you are the business owner, you've heard us say it before, but I'm just going to say it again. Those finances, that's the lifeline, the blood, the oxygen, everything in your organization. And how many times do we hear, I'll ask someone, a P&L question or even a balance sheet question, and go, "Oh, I don't know. I'll have to get my accountant to get that to you." And I'm like, "Well, that's a red flag. That's just a sign that you don't have your finger on the pulse of what your business is doing." And perhaps you're not a numbers guy and you don't like accounting. You don't do that. You don't want to be in that.
If you're not a numbers guy, you probably need to go to work for somebody
That
else.
was what I was going to say. And that sounds harsh, but it is the truth. Knowing your numbers is just the price of admission. You have to. And you don't have to have it right off the get-go, right off the bat. But you need to eventually, and I'd say pretty damn quick. You got to get an idea of what those numbers are, what they mean, and how your decisions affect them, and then what does success look like, all of that stuff. So I would say lots of times when small business owners hear delegation, and even before they hear delegation, they think it's the right thing to do to just abdicate all of their ownership responsibility to their accountant. That's just going to give them a report at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, and then they'll tell you. Then you'll know at that point if you're making money or not. And at that point, it's just too late to make decisions to change that or improve. I guess you can do it for the next year, but it's out of sight, out of mind in another 3 or 4 months. And so you need to delegate and elevate. You can't do everything. You can't micromanage everything. You can have control or you can have growth, but you can't have both. But you damn sure can't delegate and abdicate your main responsibilities. And so I want to make sure that we hone in on that. And I think I've said it enough that you probably get my point.
Something just hit me though. So
okay.
A lot of times in the business world, we talk a lot about delegation as far as the tasks that are not so-called the hourly rates you should be making as the leader. But a lot of times you probably should delegate stuff that is beyond you also.
Okay.
Meaning there's things in my organization that I am not fit or not competent enough to know.
Yeah. I'm not going to build my website.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to program the AI infrastructure into the app I'm building.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how.
Yeah.
I could figure it out, but I would probably do it bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have the ability to do something doesn't mean that I should do it, even if it's higher level.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you and I were just talking about this morning about a project we have that's got a ton of data, and it's pretty important to what we're doing. And maybe that's maybe that's a really good example of how you should delegate, which is the next part of delegation is give, as long as you're not abdicating your responsibility and as long as you are operating from a mindset of delegating and allowing yourself to elevate, the proper way to do that is to find the right person. Number one, you can trust. Number two, give clear expectations. And number three, stay engaged in the process. And that's what we were talking about. So here's an example. We've got a pretty high level project of taking all of the data from the last couple of years in one sector of our business, breaking it down on what are our estimated hours, what are our actual hours, and then what aspects affect those things. Is that the first stop? Is that the last stop of the day? Which person is doing it? Who is managing it? All of those things sort of get a little bit of a score into each one of it, and we're scoring them all and then trying to find trends and how we can improve efficiencies in each one of those. And it's pretty complicated. I understand it. I sort of created the system, but I didn't have to be the person going and manually entering all the data. But what I did is I set up this person that's doing it, showed them, and this is really one of the key tenets of training or delegating, and I think they're both synonymous in this scenario, is I did the groundwork and then I showed this person what that system is set up. Then I had them do a couple with me, and then I had him do a couple without me as I watched. So it's I do, we do, you do is the process in training, and I think it's the same kind of process if you're going to delegate a project like something that's gonna be a little bit more detailed like that and long going. Then we just set up checkpoints. Hey, let's meet on Mondays and Thursdays and let's check your progress there. You can't get too out of whack, if I'm staying in communication and just checking the work along the way.
That process also is refining a lot of systems going along as well.
Yeah.
Because that I do, we do, you do, most of the time, the you do part, if I pick the right person, the you do is going to be way better than I could do ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this guy's going to be way faster at this. It may be shocking to people, but I will get distracted on some long-term project that's going to take me 2 weeks of sitting in and crunching data. I'll get distracted. There'll be something bigger, fancier, or whatever coming on, and this person is just that kind of guy that can sit and grind it.
Perfect example. We have one sitting in the booth next to us.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Tim.
Like, we tried to manage our audio for a while. And then we brought Tim on. And if you listen now to then, God, he's going to ask for more money now.
Yeah. Well, there's another aspect of delegation.
It's way better than what we ever did.
Yeah. So
I'll take that on. I was managing our audio. You can stay out of it.
Yeah, I don't have anything to do with that.
But like Tim is doing our show has. Tim, you've stepped our game up.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
I hope the audience appreciates it.
And the thumbnails.
And the thumbnails are way better.
The thumbnails are way better. It's just way better.
Everything. That sort of leads into another aspect of delegation, and it is delegation is a great idea, but I think sometimes entrepreneurs, business leaders too, don't fully understand the budget, and can sometimes delegate a bunch of stuff that they just can't afford. If, let's say you've got someone and you're delegating a task and then they need like twice, and I'm not saying Tim does, but you get what I'm saying? Like if someone needs twice what you've got budgeted once they get going and they say, oh man, this is going to take this much time or whatever, you just can't do it. Cash is still king, and you're going to have to figure something else out. That the budget, and this is why you can't abdicate the responsibility on knowing your numbers, is that it's a great concept, but financial physics is a real thing. You can only spend what you have, and you can't spend everything you have, or you will definitely go broke. And cash is the oxygen for your organization, and if you run out of it, you will die. The organization will die. And so you just can't get happy and go lucky on or drunk on the idea of delegating everything so you can be freed up to think. I think sometimes, and we've got an episode coming up with those concepts, that people misunderstand what running a business is like. And there's misconceptions in social media and modern culture that it is just, sitting in coffee shops all day, espousing your ideas about whatever it is you're doing. When the reality is, especially for the first 5-10 years, you're grinding for very little money and building something and just plowing every extra dollar you've got back into the business. And I don't know that it's a good idea to delegate too much when you ain't got it like that. You got to get it how you live.
I also think as owners and operators that we have to put guardrails around our team members delegating.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I have a story that I had a person on my team, and I wanted them to grow inside my organization. So I gave them leeway to begin delegating their process.
Mm-hmm.
But what I saw very quickly is they were delegating all of their process so they could have time.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times I see that we do that to inspire creativity or inspire someone to move into a management position.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just begin delegating all their process.
Mm.
And a lot of times that's my fault. I came to the conclusion it was my fault because I gave them no like clear distinction on this is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
This is your task. But then this is the stuff you need to do also. Does that make sense?
It does. I do like the idea of so my solution to that, not solution, but maybe a North Star when you're talking about, because I've had similar experiences where a team member will start to delegate. It seems like an overwhelming majority of the responsibilities for their role is in EOS, and if you're working on 90, it's easy to see the accountability chart. And if you're doing quarterly conversations, you're reviewing what that role is accountable for. And it's not the person, it's not Randy that I'm like complaining about or checking up on. It's the actual role that Randy is, that seat that he's sitting in, or her. I know a girl named Randy. And then I also like, that's married up with that, is the talent map, which is clearly stating these are the 4, 5, 6 critical outcomes that this role is designed for. I do think as a business owner, and even if you're a business leader, you need to know what seat am I in and what are the critical drivers, and the company has to get a return on that. So if you're paying someone $50,000 to, let's see, quality control 100 accounts, you can't outsource someone to go do your quality controls. You damn sure can't outsource someone to like manage their email box, something like that. Those are some things that'll happen. You can't outsource someone doing the training for the team if you see things, because that's a critical, one of the critical outcomes is I want you to QC these. So we get the team to a 90% score on all average for all QCs, quality control visits, throughout the year, something like that, and that's going to require, one of the drivers is you're going to have to train on the things that you see. You're going to have to recognize patterns. You're going to have to check the systems that are in there and adjust those to get the outcomes that you're looking for, which is clearly stated 90% approval rating or whatever. I'm kind of making this up on the fly, but you kind of get the point.
Yeah. If your personal assistants have personal assistants, there's probably a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But, and this is sort of a wacky deal, but I hope you can extrapolate what I'm talking about here, is that people will get that idea and then they just won't have the job doing what the job is for. So if I'm paying, let's say it's $70,000, that is designed to produce X. And if it doesn't produce X, and I'm paying someone $70,000, but then I'm also paying, a portion of someone else's salary, maybe that's another $20,000. Well, now I'm paying whatever that math is.
Yeah.
100,000 divided by 70. Yeah. I'm paying 28% more for the same outcome, and that's not going to work for me. You want to know why I say you've got to know the numbers, being the language of business, is because you'll go broke allowing people to outsource stuff when you start getting on a delegation kick. And you start pushing it down because you want Randy to be really efficient and to really think and be thoughtful with his quality control visits and then, deal with the client really well, but he's complaining about that he just doesn't have time. And, I don't know that delegation's the right thing there. Maybe we got to look at how's he managing his time and something else. Maybe I've got to do something else other than say, why don't you delegate it? I think it's just a slippery slope, and that's part of my warning. Just be mindful.
I'll fall into the trap if my bank account's fat.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And you want to see where delegation can go bad, let the bank account get tight. You'll find out where the delegation's going bad.
Yeah.
But as long as you got fat account,
Yeah.
it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
But I guess in your business, let the winter come along.
Winter's actually okay.
It probably
Let
exposes,
August come along.
It exposes where you've
Yeah.
been fat, right?
Yeah, right. And overhead can creep too.
Mm-hmm.
Overhead can creep because, it will, people will misconstrue that adding another head into overhead will make everything better, when what it really does is just add an extra $60,000 of expense for no additional throughput. There's no additional return on those invested employment capital.
Another
dollars.
place where I think delegation can go bad, especially right now with AI, is watching subscription costs for automation.
Oh,
because I find myself delegating a lot to automation now, and I look at the overhead cost that it's costing me, and it's creeping up into considerable figures.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. If I need an AI agent to do graphics, and if I need an AI agent to do text, and if I need another AI agent, so it becomes an employee. So automation can also become in that revenue kind of killer as well.
That's a good one.
So
did not think about that one.
You may want to look through not only what people are you delegating to, but you may also want to look at what programs are you using.
Oh, your tech stack.
You may want to look at is your tech stack creeping?
Yeah,
the cost creeping.
Yeah, that sort of ties into the next step on here was if you do delegate something, you need to inspect what you expect, and people respect what you inspect, that kind of concept. But maybe that goes into, let's inspect what our tech stack is every quarter, and what are we spending on, and what are we using, what are we not using. I'm sure we're using some softwares that sounded like great ideas with our fleet or training, and we're just not using it for the last 6, 7, 8 months. And so you can cut some expense there. But back to the true, more traditional sense of inspect what you expect. That one example that I gave was when I set that delegation up, I've gotten better at this, is just going, okay, we need to set up a time that we're going to meet to make sure that we're on the right path. I don't want you to get too far off track with this stuff, and just you have to double back. And plus, here's what I'm really doing, and this is kind of the core aspect of delegation, is there's levels to this, but first you've got to you've got to give it to someone that you trust, you think you can trust, but then you've also got to let them build up some trust. And that's going to be just checking in and making sure that if I've got 3 check-ins and every time he's right on track, I can check in less after that. Number 1, he knows that I'm going to be looking. And then number 2, he's already built up a track record that I can trust him to get these milestones done and get them done correctly. So inspect what you expect is an important aspect of delegation.
Without being a tyrant, though.
Yeah.
You're going to anything that you delegate initially is going to cost you.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're going to have, your team members going to have a learning curve to learn what's your delegation.
Yeah. And really, it's just good leadership.
Yep.
I like this guy. I don't want to get mad at him. He doesn't want to fail or do it wrong. And so what I'm really doing is just making sure that nothing gets mixed up. Communication's a funny thing. I can say it one way, I can have it written out, and you could still misinterpret it just a little bit. And this is a large enough project that it's easy to sort of misinterpret one thing or another, and then push that down the road 100 or 2,000 data entry points. It's going to get way off. And so I want this person to succeed, and I want him to feel supported too, not out there on an island. So it's just good leadership. And that's another point, is that when you delegate, it's not almost, it just is bad leadership to just say, hey, go figure it out. Sometimes you got to on little things, and you don't have to give like clear instructions, but most of the time you're going to have to say, hey, this is what I'm looking to achieve. This is what success looks like. Here's my thoughts on getting there. This is the sort of the pathway that I think you need to go with. Have a discussion about that. Do you understand how to get there? Is this in your wheelhouse? How would you approach it? How much time do you think it should take? Oh, really? Well, I was looking to have it done by this. Is there any way to get that done? And you're just having a discussion. You're given all the parameters for that. And then you start giving them what you're really looking for. So when they go ahead and execute it, you can high five and really appreciate that person's efforts, and they can feel like they have elevated. They have done something. They've built a little bit more trust. They've put a task under their belt, and now they've got another skill that they've achieved. And it's just good for everyone if you delegate correctly. I want to take a moment to talk about someone who's been instrumental in my personal and business success. That's Johnny Barranco and his team at Barranco and Associates. For over 7 years, Johnny has been my go-to accountant and financial consultant. I can tell you that he's more than just a tax preparer. Johnny takes a holistic approach to all my financial dealings, aligning them with my long-term plans and personal lifestyle. I've recommended Johnny to several friends throughout different business groups around the country, and the feedback has been nothing short of exceptional. His expertise and service are top-notch. So if you're looking for someone who not only prepares your taxes, but also helps you strategize for the future, Johnny and his team at Barranco and Associates are the ones to call. Trust me, you won't regret it. So contact Johnny Barranco today and take the first steps towards financial peace. You're not going to regret this.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about my friend Wes Cody. He's the president of C2 Wealth Strategies, a financial advisory firm dedicated to providing personalized solutions for your financial needs. Wes and his team of professionals are passionate about helping clients create wealth and achieve financial freedom. At C2 Wealth Strategies, they believe in taking a holistic approach to financial planning and are committed to building long-lasting relationships with their clients, ensuring their financial well-being every step of the way. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Contact Wes and C2 Wealth today at c2wealth.com to schedule a consultation. Let Wes and his team help you build your financial future. Have you ever heard of KRIs?
Yeah, key result indicators.
Key risk indicator.
Oh, key risk. Okay. There's KPIs, key performance indicators too.
So I just learned this actually this week. I was sitting on a call with operators of innovation hubs around the globe, and we're going through this process. I'm actually doing a little schooling.
Oh, okay.
To learn how to run accelerators and stuff like that. And they begin talking about KRIs. So, of course, I acted like I knew what it was. And then I went to Google and figured it out.
Oh, okay.
And it's about, and so what they are talking about, and anytime you're running programs or operations, that you should do a KRI. So what's the risk of this? What is the risk of this?
Like what
expense?
could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
And so I think that would be good to implement into anything that you're delegating is what could go wrong.
Yeah, let's talk about what could go wrong. Yeah.
And so you should know the key risk indicator before you delegate the task.
I can dig that. Yeah.
And so I kind of like that. A KRI stands for key risk indicator, a metric that measures the likelihood of risk.
Okay. I like it.
And how it affects the organization. So anytime and I think that would also be good when we create a new role.
Ooh.
Is what's that new role do? And what is the risk of creating that new role?
I like that.
So
yeah.
Thought I'd bring that in.
One of the last things I've got on the work side of delegating, and we're going to get to the overlaps in all this, is that there's just levels to this framework, the delegation framework. And what I mean by that is is if you're going to bring someone along and you're going to start delegating to someone, there's just levels. And here's, like, for instance, so level 1 is essentially do exactly what I say, and that's just execute the task. And I'm trying to think of something. Uh, you know, post this post with this context and this content, this verbiage, and this photo, something like that. Or, plant these things right here, or change this oil this exact way. Just do exactly what I say, and then you go and inspect that, whatever. That's level 1. That's like the lowest level, and that's almost like dictating what to do. The next level is research, then tell me what you found. Does that make sense? Like, hey, what I'd like to do is, we know we need to get more efficient in this one department. What I'd like for you to do is take a couple of weeks, look into it. You're pretty good with data analysis. I'd like to get your analysis, research that, and then tell me what you found. That's a delegation, and you can give some directives, like, the deadline, how you'd like for that data to get broken out, and then, an idea of how you might approach it, but, leave them free to sort of get into it however they'd like. Number 3 is, once you've done that research, tell me what you found, and then make a recommendation. Does that make sense?
It does.
So you're developing a little bit more trust. I want them to do the research, tell me what they found, and then give me a recommendation. If I was you, I would do this. I think the best approach to have this department more efficient would be to do this. Then the next thing would be level 4 is then go do this, do the research, have a couple of options, and then make a decision. But tell me what you did. And you're just going, whatever, like, go through, see what you're going to do with this customer, do the analysis, and then figure out what it's going to take to make it right, or make them happy, or make it efficient, or make it profitable, whatever the job is. And then just tell me what you did. Send me an email. This was the problem. These were the possible solutions. This is what I chose. This is the reason I chose it. And this is what I did. This is the outcome. And then level 5 is, this is when you get really good. And I think this is kind of where I'm at with Justin. Our operations director has been there, and we've worked together for a long time in a bunch of different capacities, is that, hey, this is what we're going for. And, I need you to own it. This is what success looks like. So have at it, brother. I'll know if you're on track by these results. You own it. But it takes a while to get there. There's levels to delegation. There's levels to building trust. There's levels to helping this person make decisions and own decisions in the vein of how you would like for them to approach them. And then ultimately, if you do it right, you can get to level 5 where they just own it, and now you're truly free. But you got to be disciplined. And this is one of those situations where discipline equals freedom, that you got to be disciplined to walk these people through those steps and through that process to be able to get there.
This really is determined. Level 5 is really determined by the size of the organization.
Oh,
too.
Yeah, sure. Or maybe even your size. If you've got a contractor that you've worked with for a while, and you've gone through this process of do exactly as I say, research and tell me what you found, make some recommendations, make a decision, tell me what you did, and then own it completely. Once you got a book and you say, here's the graphics I'd like for it to look something like this, you own it. You already know in 2 weeks they're going to give you back a really good result, or whatever you call it, product. You probably had that relationship with some folks.
Yeah, I would say
but it took some while to build that trust.
Definitely so. If they meet the requirements of inspect what you expect over and over and over again, they're probably there.
Yeah, they're there. They're in such alignment with what your expectations are that they can just go ahead and do it.
Right.
They know it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the shining future you're looking for.
But in a
with
small
delegation.
organization like mine, where I have 2 to 3 employees, team members, that's pretty rare.
It's rare,
Yeah.
but that's that's the nice way to look at it. I mean, it's not a bad spot to be at. Research, tell me what you found, and then make a recommendation. That's pretty
Right.
good. If you
Definitely
can get
so.
there, that's great. How much time did you save there? You probably saved 5 hours that week, and you've got 15-minute conversation about what they found, what their recommendations are, and then collectively make a decision and then go do that. That's time saving. So that's in the work area. Lots of that stuff is coming from our experience in business. EOS. Dave Ramsey does a good job with delegation. I'm trying to think of who else. There's lots of other resources on delegation that you could find. But being that it is the Overlap podcast, I mean, I think this falls right in line with parenting.
Definitely so.
Yeah. And I think the delegate and elevate portion of this works both ways. And listen, these are just my opinions. If your kids don't have chores, I'm not dogging on you. I'm just saying that's not how my house operates.
I will say at the stage that I'm at, and most of my kids are, 3 out of the 4 are out.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back and make my children have more responsibility.
Yeah.
I think that it would have went well in their launching.
Yeah.
A little better.
The world's a tough place when you get out there.
Not that they didn't have responsibility.
Yeah.
But the level in which I trusted them to do what they needed to do was probably not there.
Yeah.
And maybe it probably was just my laziness.
Could have been.
Of saying, I'll just do it.
Yeah, it's easier if I do it.
I think
that happens at work too.
I think we hurt ourselves when we tell our children, you're just not doing it right. I'm not doing it. Why don't we teach them to do it right?
Well, we hurt our children.
Yeah.
I always use, and when I deal with managers, I always use our kids as a great example. And I always use, hey, I got a 12-year-old. I need them to clean their room. Not because, I need to go, not because I don't want to go up there and clean it, but I want them to have a job and be responsible for something. But in the work world, someone's got to clean that room. It needs to be them. It's their room, right? I don't need to go mow that account for this person, but I need them to know how to do it right. So how do I do that? Well, I do it the same way that you train or what we were talking about in Delegate and Elevate. I'm going to make the bed. And I always tell my kids this is if you make your bed, almost everything looks automatically better. You might be able to get away with a couple of things here and there if your bed is made right.
When you were in the Coast Guard, did they make you drop the quarter on the bed?
Oh yeah.
Really?
But my dad was in the Marines too, so
you already knew how to do that.
Yeah, dude. Like the folded corners, they call them like hospital corners.
Yep.
And then you tuck them, and you could bounce a quarter.
I'm gonna need you to come to the house and teach Stephanie how to do that.
Hey guys, can I chime in real quick?
Yeah.
Here's something that I struggle with because I still have 3 little ones at the house.
I know, and that's amazing that you're so old and have all those little kids.
You did this to me last week. We're only like 2 years apart.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, but your kids are like
Keith was having kids at
20
18.
years younger than mine.
I just, what? I was living in the big city. I was having a good time. I didn't settle down until my late 30s.
Well, Keith is a byproduct of growing up in the church where he's not
That's
allowed
right.
to have sex. Not allowed to have sex until he's married.
Guilt led me to marriage.
Yeah.
I grew up in the church and I rebelled a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
I came full circle. Making the bed thing, that's something I'm going through now. And here's the thing. If you expect your kids to make their bed, it's like I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, we got to make our own bed, right? Because it's kind of hypocritical.
Yeah.
And that could probably overlap into work as well, you know.
Oh yeah. You've got to be the
Example.
example, you know. And you really can't, like, you know, and that sounds cliche. You can't ask people to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And the bed is one of those things. The bed is definitely one of those
Have
things.
you read the book, Make Your Bed?
I haven't.
Did you listen to the talk on YouTube?
I did.
It was a great. It's a great talk.
It's a great talk.
Yeah, let me save you some time. Just go watch him on YouTube.
Oh, I did that.
Deliver it.
Jordan read it, and she's like, "You don't have to read it. We lived it."
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, my dad growing up, that was the thing. He was like, "You're going to make your bed." I'm like, "This is stupid." He's like, "You don't understand. This is just, it helps you set up for your day." That's stupid. You don't know anything, old man. You know.
I had a water bed. It was hard to make.
Oh, I had a water bed for a little bit.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah.
We had to reinforce it. I've said this before. We had to reinforce my trailer.
Yeah.
To put my water bed in there.
So the bed, you know, like Tim did bring up, is that you do have to be the example, right? And you need to be cognizant of that. And that's just leadership. That's just good leadership, right? Leaders are going in a direction, leading, and getting people to come along with them on the journey. That's really what leadership is. With your children, I should be a responsible, disciplined, organized adult. And if not, I'm doing my children a disservice. Does that make sense? So it starts with leadership. But back to the delegation point, at home is I do, we do, you do, helps me to establish with the 12-year-old the standard, or 10-year-old, whatever it is, the standard that's acceptable. And, you know, the standard for an 8-year-old is going to be way different than the standard for a 12-year-old, you know. The 12-year-old is going to be, you know, pretty crisp and clean. Not like super, we're going to bounce a quarter, but the pillows are back right. The stuff is off the floor. You know, we're not hiding everything in the corner or in a closet. And, you know, everything's kind of cleared away on all of the, you know, the desks and nightstands. Those are the standards. But just making the bed is probably good enough for the 8-year-old. And making a pretty decent attempt. And I'm going to cheer that person. I mean, I'm going to cheer the 8-year-old on. I'm going to inspect it a little bit more, you know, maybe on Tuesdays and Thursdays until he figures out it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'll have to mix it up. But you give them a high five and they feel good about it, you know, man. And I say it all the time. And Rick Miller just blew my mind when he said it, is that good people do good things because they feel good about it, not because they feel bad about it. And I think when it comes to parenting, when it comes to managing people, we want to take that stuff personal, and that they're not doing it because they don't like us or they're being disrespectful or whatever. Sometimes they're just kids they're not thinking about that stuff. They're thinking about fart jokes and like getting ice cream because it's Friday, you know, or they're thinking about, oh, dang, I hate Mr. Hamilton's English class. I can't believe I got to go do that again, or whatever. And then the other guys at work, or girls at work, they got stuff going on, man. They might forget, and you just got to keep on them until it becomes at work a point where, hey, we can't keep doing this. You know, you understand the standard. You don't get to fire your kids, but it might be, hey, we keep doing this, and we have to start taking some privileges away. There's no TV, there's no iPad, there's no phone, something like that, until you get their attention. And then you get them back on track, and then you celebrate that stuff. The elevation portion is that people talk about kids and self-esteem and all of that stuff. And I think that that's probably a good thing, but I think we've over-indexed on that to the point where we've forgotten what self-esteem really is, which is an inside job. If kids do things that they know are productive and constructive, they start feeling good about it. And then they have self-esteem, not a participation trophy, not some disingenuous thing that you give them to manufacture self-esteem. They have to do something to earn it. Self-esteem is earned, not given. And that's why I like jujitsu. That's why I like sports. I like those things. Or the arts, or learning to play the piano. That's hard to do, But when you get good at it, you feel good. And when you do good things, you feel good. You feel good about yourself. And that's what doing the dishes after dinner, they're accomplishing something. And they have a little bit of understanding that there's some work that goes into preparing that meal. And everyone plays a part in this family. And we're going to take care of it. And I get a little pushback here and there, but I give them the speech and they shut up. But eventually they get it, especially when they leave the house. And I've got one that's left the house, and he said on a couple occasions, like, "Hey, you were right. Remember all the crap you were saying?" He's like, "Yeah, you're kind of right. I'm living with these other guys. They're slobs. It's driving me crazy, and I get what you were saying."
Isn't it nice when your kids come back to you and say, "Hey,
yeah,
thanks for preparing me."
Yeah. Thanks for pushing. Thanks for making me take AP classes. My first year in college was a breeze.
Yeah.
Thanks for teaching me that, I got to make my bed. I got to keep my stuff clean. I got to keep it organized. So when I'm running for practice, I can just grab it. It's in the right spot. I'm going, Stayed up too late, and now I've got to whatever. My dishes are clean and they're put away, so I've got it for the next meal, because mama ain't doing that stuff for me anymore. It's good stuff. It's delegation and elevation.
So the art of delegation. It is an art.
It is. It's an art, and it's going to be different for everyone.
And we helped you today.
Yeah, we hope you did. It's trial and error, and cut yourself some slack if it doesn't work right then, but stick with it. It is how you scale up. It is how you help your children become better. It is how you help your business become better.
Speaking of delegation, we have a lot of tools and sponsors that can help you. Check our show notes out. Check the things on our website, overlaplife.com, and there'll be tools there that can help. Follow, share, please. Peace.